Welcome to this encore edition of St. Louis on the Air from St. Louis Public Radio. I'm Elaine Cha. Along with the cracking of bats at Cardinals games and pucks hitting the boards at Blues games, there's another sound sports fans in St. Louis know and love: Jeremy Boyer's organ skills. But that's not all. Boyer's also got mad fans on TikTok, mad in a good way, of course, because of his work with 90s classics like this one by Dr. Dre. Then there's this one he arranged and played for Swifties. How does he do it, and why? Joining me in studio last August during the hot St. Louis summer about his path to the pedals and keys was Jeremy Boyer, organist for the St. Louis Cardinals, the St. Louis Blues, and followers on TikTok everywhere. So you are a self-taught organist. What is it that first got you interested in the organ as an instrument?
My mom had played when she was a teenager, before I was born. My grandmother had donated an organ to my mom because she didn't need it, and she thought my mom might use it, although she really didn't. But I was in band and choir and wanted to apply those skills to the organ, and I kind of fell in love with it.
Mm-hmm. How big is the organ that you learned on, or that you taught yourself on?
It wasn't very big. It was a home organ. It had, the two manuals, two sets of keyboards and pedal boards.
Mm-hmm. And how did you start that teaching of yourself? What did you refer to?
Well, I had learned how to read music in band and choir, and the organ that was at the house had the letter names above the keys. So I applied what I knew from reading music to the keys, and then got a little bit better at it as I went.
Mm-hmm. So if we fast forward to your first professional stadium job, that was with the Memphis Redbirds. Is that something that you specifically sought out, or was it just sort of a marriage of timing and connections?
It was a little bit of both. I wanted to do something like that, and I was playing for SEMO, for baseball and basketball games at Southeast Missouri State, and a classmate of mine who I had been in the dorms with was an intern in Memphis, Karen Livingston, and she had, they needed an organist in Memphis, and she's like, I know somebody, and they reached out to me, so of course I was interested. I was living in Cape Girardeau at the time, so it wasn't as far of a drive, and I'd drive down for a homestand and I'd play it.
Yeah. What was it like that first time you played at a game as that dedicated organist?
It was exciting. I mean, growing up a lifelong Cardinal fan and, the Memphis Redbirds being the AAA team of the Cardinals, there were a lot of players there that I recognized from either having been in the major leagues or prospects.
Do you remember what it is you played?
I don't know if I remember all the first songs. I know that Skip Schumacher was there at the time, and now he's the manager of the Miami Marlins, but was a longtime Cardinal. And I just did some of the things that I would do at most games. It was just another game for me, but maybe a little bit higher level.
Yeah. So how is it that experience with the Memphis Redbirds lead back to your home state?
Well, I had played in Memphis, and, even then I was kind of posting things with YouTube and sharing stuff there. I was still taking lessons with Ernie Hayes, who was still the Cardinals organist at the time. And so, I was driving to Memphis to play games, and I was driving to Maryland Heights to take lessons with Ernie. And, I think a little bit of that was sent over to the Blues, and the Blues had recognized my name from YouTube videos and maybe that connection with Ernie, and they reached out to me about their position.
On those drives, were you listening to organ music?
I listened to, obviously, a lot of music, as you can tell, probably by my TikToks and videos.
So you've just mentioned the late Ernie Hayes, and he was a beloved organist with the Cardinals for many years. What did you learn from him, Jeremy?
I learned so much from him about music, of course, about timing, about situations, about life. He was a great influence on me as a person as well as a musician.
And in learning from him, did that always stay sort of where the organ was? Did you ever like walk around the stadium with him to sort of get a sense of what the relationship is between you as the organist and those who were in the stands?
Yeah, I mean, I sat in with him at Busch Stadium before, I obviously was playing there, and kind of got to get the lay of the land a little bit with him and see the behind the scenes things, and
Must have been exciting.
it was very exciting.
So you've been with the Blues for 18 seasons. You've played through a lot of important games through those years. What was it like to be part of that, sort of in the season after, I guess, you're done playing for the Cardinals?
So, I started in 2007, 2008 with the Blues, and it was not too long after the lockout, the 2004 lockout in the NHL. And the Blues were kind of building back up. Before that, they had changed ownership groups. They had traded, a few of the star players away. So everybody's kind of building back with this young group of kids with the St. Louis Blues. It kind of became the foundation of the Blues going forward. And so I kind of got to grow along with that.
Right.
And that was kind of a cool thing for me. And, I had a lot of fun doing that. And I did that, probably I think until 2012 when I started playing also with the Cardinals. But even when the beginning with the Blues, I'd play the Blues, and then in the summer after that, I went and played for Memphis again. So, kind of became an all-around, all year-round job.
Right. So insofar as the order goes, it was the Blues first and then the Cardinals.
Yes.
So speaking about the Cardinals, it's now the 13th season that you've been with this team. Are there adjustments that you have had to make in going from playing indoors to a much larger and outdoor venue?
Not really. I mean, the sound is so good at Busch Stadium, so I don't really have to adjust much in the way that I play. But obviously there's some differences between hockey and baseball.
What are some of those?
In baseball, of course, there's lots of breaks. There's lots of, between every pitch, there's a break pretty much. So lots of times to play a little bit of music, but there's not a lot of time either because, especially now with the pitch clock, you don't have a whole lot of time, but I still make time for those things and foul balls and different things.
What kinds of things are you playing now that you do have sort of a shortened window?
Well, you just got to get to the meat of things sometimes. Sometimes you gotta pick your spots, and you got to know the situation. Like, what's this particular batter? Is he, Paul Goldschmidt doesn't stay out of the box very long. He's ready to go usually. Some batters take a little bit longer. Wilson Contreras will kind of weigh the pitch clock down until he has to get into the box. And I know that, so if I'm going to play something a little bit longer, maybe that's the time to do it, or on a foul ball.
So, I mean, a larger venue often has quite an echo. Do you have to wear, headphones or an earpiece when you play?
No, I really don't. I'm in a press box, and it's, I can hear obviously the audio outside. I have a small speaker on the organ that I can hear as well inside. I don't turn it up too loud because there are a lot of other people in the room with me.
Right.
But the only time I really use like an in-ear bud like kind of thing is if I'm playing like pregame and I'm playing for a half hour and there's a lot of talking over the top of.
What about communication with other people who are part of the total experience of those games? I mean, maybe a director of entertainment. What does that look like?
In baseball, it's really easy because we're all in the same room. We're all in the scoreboard room. The director is there, and it's easy to just turn around and say, "Hey, John, what are we doing next?" Or that kind of thing. At hockey, though, we're all spread out to the arena, and we have to wear headphones, and we communicate through a headset. And the director is pretty much across the arena from me, and then there's the DJ who's in another booth, and then the PA announcers. We all have to kind of communicate that way.
And then the handoff between you and the DJ, how do you decide who will play what and when?
At Cardinals, most of the time it's pretty much just me during play. I know that I pretty much have free reign, other than like at-bat songs. The team has their at-bat song. But, I can pretty much play whenever I want. If the DJ is going to play a little clap along something. He'll say, "Hey, Jeremy, I'm going to take this next foul ball," or something.
Yeah.
At hockey, the director always calls who's up. So she's in charge of letting us know, hey, next whistle is going to be organ, or the next whistle is going to be the DJ or a video.
Mm-hmm. What kinds of situations, Jeremy, have been, the most thrilling or maybe difficult to play for?
I think obviously the most thrilling would have to have been during the Stanley Cup run for the Blues.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, we played to a full house at Enterprise Center for every game since the Western Conference Finals. Even if they were on the road, we opened up the building and watched the games on the big screen.
Yeah.
One of those moments was in, I think, Game 2 of the Stanley Cup Final, and we were watching on the screen. I had a little monitor on the organ as well. When we're watching it, it's being played in Boston. But Carl Gunnarsson scores in overtime to win the game, and it's the first time in Blues history they won a Stanley Cup playoff final game. Mm-hmm. And I had known that he had scored 4 or 5 seconds before the crowd did because I wasn't on a delay.
Oh, okay.
And it was so hard to contain myself afterwards and not to give it away and ruin it for everyone because I was out in the crowd and everybody could see me.
Right,
know, and but that was certainly maybe one of the first really huge, just like you couldn't contain yourself, and I'm pretty stoic and kind of keep my composure. Yes, but that was such a big moment in franchise history, and it was super exciting.
And so what were you saying to yourself in that moment to stay composed, no pun intended, during a time that is so exciting for you personally, and yet you also have to think about what you are doing that will affect those who are in the crowd?
Yeah. Thankfully, it wasn't a long delay, so I didn't have to do it for very long, but I had that big smile on my face, and I'm just gripping the bench behind me and just waiting for everybody else to see what had happened, and it was super exciting.
So, Jeremy, one of the things that I have wondered about in the videos, we can see that there's a binder in front of you. I mean, how do you choose what you're going to play? I mean, do you ever do things just on the fly?
Yes, of course. I mean, most of the time I probably do things on the fly. If there's something new that I've just learned, sometimes it's nice to have a lead sheet up there just to kind of keep it, fresh in my mind. But for the most part, everything is on the fly, is from memory, or, I'm ready to go at any second for anything. And I mean, I've got to be ready for anything because you never know what's going to happen in the game, and you want the music to reflect what's happening.
Right. Now, you've also made a habit of trolling other teams, all in good fun, of course. When the Boston Red Sox were in town, you played Gloria, which is a callback to the Blues' magical Stanley Cup run against the Boston Bruins. You've also played parts of Pirates of the Caribbean after Cardinals pitchers struck out Pittsburgh Pirates batters. So is that part of what is planned beforehand because you know whom they'll be playing? What are some of the other things that you can reliably sort of pull out for games like that?
Yeah, and you look at the schedule and like, this team's in town. What might fit well with this team? And it gives you a chance to do a little bit of different repertoire too. And there's season ticket holders that come to every game, and you don't want to play the same thing every night.
Right.
So it gives you a chance to maybe expand your repertoire to something that might be fun. Mm-hmm. That would only happen that one time of the season, or in hockey we only play some teams once a year, so it's maybe that's the only chance I get to play something like that.
Right. So TikTok is also another place where people are hearing you, and you've enjoyed quite a large following on your account. That is where you're posting clips of your playing at sports matches. What's it been like, Jeremy, to interact with fans of your music via social media?
It is fun, you get to interact with them. You also get a lot of ideas from them. There's a lot of times where they're like, hey, this would be really fun to play. And I'm like, hey, that's a good idea. Let's do it. Mm-hmm. And it's a good way to learn, I have an idea of what I like. I have an idea of what I think might work. But, what do the fans want to hear? That's who's paying to come and watch the game, and I want to take that into consideration and use that in building my repertoire or whatever I'm going to play.
Right. So you did post a clip yesterday on TikTok where you were playing Missouri native pop star Chappell Roan's Hot to Go. And you also played Kendrick Lamar's Not Like Us at a Cardinals game this summer. So that has been played so many places. I have not heard it on organ. That was a first. Why is it that you play popular music instead of things that people might associate more with classic sports stadium songs?
Well, one of the things that I learned with Ernie was that Ernie was very old school, and he liked to do the Great American Songbook. And I love the Great American Songbook too, but, I think that maybe one of the things that, keeps the organ relevant is keeping it relevant with the times too. Mm-hmm. I might still play something from the Great American Songbook at a Cardinal game, but I want to interact with young fans too and people who of all different ages, so they have something to take away from the game.
And was the decision to start posting to TikTok specifically part of your keeping up?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, like I said, I kind of started with YouTube back in the day, and I'm a young Gen Xer, but I kind of try to keep up with technology. I have 3 daughters, and they've kind of kept me in the loop with things too. So they were like, you should try to do some of this stuff. And I think TikTok especially kind of was born out of COVID and kind of my boredness at that time. So.
Right. So do people recognize you out in public now that you are on TikTok?
I do think so. They recognize me more often now than prior to TikTok and YouTube Shorts and those kinds of things and Instagram. But yeah.
What kinds of interactions do you have with people?
They say, they let me know, hey, I liked XYZ that you played, and you should try this. And I'm like, okay, well, that might work, or maybe, so it's kind of fun to talk with them or just talk in sports or life in general.
Right. Do they do organ playing gestures or anything like that?
No, not usually.
And what are some of the ideas that you've gotten from TikTok that have, shown up and people can hear?
Yeah, well, like Chapel Roan. I mean, that was a TikTok suggestion. I had folks say, she's from Missouri. That'd be a great song to play. Had a good beat. I'm like, that'd be good. And we had a stolen bass, and I thought, hot to go. Here we go. I got the guy stolen the bass.
Jeremy, you had said before we came into the studio that playing organ is for fun. So it's not just making a little bit of extra money. When you're not playing in a stadium or an ice rink, you are directing music and playing at a church in South St. Louis County. Tell us a little bit about that and how maybe playing in these spaces is actually more similar than people might imagine.
I think so. I play at St. Francis of Assisi on Telegraph in South County. I'm the director of music and liturgy there. I play all their Sunday masses and school masses and weddings and funerals and all the things that you would expect at a church. Mm-hmm. I think that there are similarities because just like in sports, you want to keep everybody engaged. Mm-hmm. And at Mass, you want to keep them, in a prayerful mindset, and hopefully through your music you can do that. And you can engage them in prayer in the music that you're playing or singing. So that's why I try to do at church just the same as I would at a game.
Yeah. And speaking of singing, your very first instrument is the one that you're using right now, your voice. Does being in that space at church also just give you room to use that instrument in ways that you studied in college?
Yes, and I sing all the time at Mass. I sing and play at the same time. There's people who only know me for doing blues or Cardinals who will hear me sing and they're like, whoa, I had no idea you could sing. I have to explain to them that I was actually a vocal music major in college at SEMO, and that's kind of, my bread and butter.
Jeremy Boyer is organist for the St. Louis Cardinals and the St. Louis Blues. Jeremy, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Jeremy Boyer joined me last August.
Today's segment was produced by Aula Kuziz.
Audio engineering and podcast design by Aaron Dorr.
Our executive producer is Alex Hoyer.
St. Louis on the Air is a production of St. Louis Public Radio. Understanding starts here.
Do you find yourself regularly listening to episodes of St. Louis on the Air? Suggest us to a friend you think might enjoy our conversations. And leave us a review and rating on Apple Podcasts on the App Store. It's the simplest way to help people discover our show. Thanks.
St. Louis Public Radio is a member-supported service of the University of Missouri St. Louis.
The Gateway brings you the day's news each weekday from around the St. Louis region and the state capitals in Jefferson City.
Our schools are accredited. We don't need this bill.
And Springfield.
How many more years must pass before lawmakers see time is of the essence?
I'm Abby Larico. Join me each weekday for The Gateway on the STLPR app or wherever you get podcasts.